All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving into a color that you might think you know, but I guarantee you there's more to it than meets the eye.
I am excited.
We're talking about the color red, and you guys sent in a
Yeah.
ton of great sources on
This
this.
is going to be a good one.
We have everything from scientific interviews, Spanish texts, poems. We even have some art exhibition descriptions, and they're all about the color red.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating about this deep dive is we're not just looking at, the wavelength of red or where it falls on the spectrum.
Right.
We're going to be uncovering its cultural weight and its symbolism
Yeah.
and how it's been used and perceived across history and across disciplines.
It's like we're trying to decode a secret language.
It is.
This language is written in red.
Yeah, I love that.
So where do we even begin with something like this? I think the best place to start is with the stars themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Going big.
Yeah.
And one of the sources that you sent in was an interview with astronomer Julieta Fierro.
Oh, yeah.
And she points out that red is fundamentally tied to the temperature and energy of stars.
Okay, so she talks about how those massive red giants that we see out in space are actually stars in their twilight years.
Yes.
They've burned through most of their fuel and they're slowly fading out.
Exactly.
It's kind of poetic in a way.
It is. It is.
In like a cosmic sort of way.
Very much so. And here's where that red thread takes a really kind of an unexpected turn.
Okay.
Fierro also explains that the most common type of star in the universe is actually a red dwarf,
Oh, wow.
which is much smaller and cooler than a red giant.
So wait a minute. So you're telling me that we have red signifying the end of a star's life, but then
Yeah.
we also have red signifying the most abundant type of star that is just peppering the universe with this kind of crimson glow?
Exactly. It's a beautiful paradox.
It really is. I mean, wouldn't you say that's a pretty powerful paradox?
Absolutely. And it really sets the stage for how we see red play out culturally, too.
Yeah.
It might be the lowest energy visible light, as Orhan Pamuk writes in My Name is Red, but it's consistently associated with some of the most powerful emotions and concepts.
You know, that quote really stuck with me because it's true.
Yes.
Which, I mean, think about it. We associate it with passion, with danger, with importance.
Mm-hmm.
Emperors wore red, revolutionaries rallied under red banners, and a simple red octagon can bring traffic to a standstill.
It's true. Yeah, that visual impact is something that we see throughout history.
Yeah.
One of the sources that you sent in, Anahi Koldu, who's a science writer, she highlights how ochre, which is a natural red pigment,
Right.
was used extensively in prehistoric cave paintings.
I mean, these weren't just like doodles, right? These were like full on.
No.
I mean, they were likely used for storytelling and rituals and expressing early forms of human symbolism.
Exactly. Sophisticated.
Exactly.
And the interesting thing about ochre is that it's found all over the world,
Right.
which probably explains why it shows up in cave paintings from Europe to Australia to the Americas.
So it was readily available and
Yes.
durable.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, and they clearly knew how to make a statement with it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, these early artists, they
and this
they
is
knew.
this is where we start to see a shift in how red is used because, as societies develop, instead of just readily available ochre, we find dyes like rubia and kermes, which produce much more vibrant reds, but they were also much more expensive to create.
So it's almost like red itself becomes more complex
Yeah.
as human societies develop.
It does.
I can't help but think about all the work that went into producing these expensive dyes.
Yeah.
Who was doing all the heavy lifting to make these vibrant reds possible.
And that's where the work of artist Tonia Candiani comes in.
Oh, okay.
One of your sources highlighted how Candiani's art focuses on the labor behind these colors, particularly cochineal,
Okay.
which is a red dye extracted from insects.
Oh, wow.
And the Aztec Empire in particular had a huge cochineal industry
Really?
and even used it for tribute payments.
Wait, so you're saying people were literally paying their taxes in bug-based red dye?
Yeah,
That just blows my mind. I mean, we went from ochre, which was just readily available out in nature,
right.
to this highly sought-after, labor-intensive red that really signified wealth and power.
Yeah, and this journey of red continues into how entire cultures were associated with it.
Okay.
Carlos Martinez Assad, who's a Mexican historian, he referred to the Phoenicians as the red men
Oh, wow.
because of their mastery of red dyes
Okay.
and the vibrant textiles that they produced.
Wow.
And speaking of cultural impact, let's not forget about revolutions.
Right.
I mean, the French Revolution, the Mexican Revolution,
Mhm.
the Bolsheviks, so many movements adopted red as their color.
It's like red became the color of upheaval,
Yes.
of overturning the existing order.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But then we have Carla Faisler, the artist who describes red as the color of the devil's eyes.
Okay.
So visually striking,
Yeah.
but also linking red to transgression and the forbidden.
Right.
So it's almost like red is both this symbol of power, but also this warning sign.
It's fascinating how one color can embody so many, like, contradictory ideas.
It really is.
What do you think of when you see red?
That's a good question.
Hold that thought because we're just getting started on this exploration of red. We've gone from the vastness of space to the intimacy of cave paintings. And it's clear that red has always been this, like, powerful force in human history. But what about how it shows up in the stories we tell?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And the literature we read?
Yeah, and one of your sources takes us right to the heart of that question.
Okay.
An excerpt from Orhan Pamuk's novel, My Name is Red,
Oh, yeah?
takes us to 16th century Istanbul.
Okay.
Tells the story as a group of miniaturist painters.
Okay.
And get this, it's actually narrated by the color red itself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like the novel is a deep dive into red.
It is.
Much like what we're doing right now.
Exactly. And through the novel, Pamuk explores not only the techniques of miniature painting, but also the philosophical and symbolic meanings of color.
Okay.
Red, of course, takes center stage.
Right.
And it's linked to themes of blood, passion, and even the act of artistic creation.
It's like red is the lifeblood of the story.
Yes.
Pulsing through every page.
Very much so.
But we also have a completely different perspective on red through the poetry of Maria Baranda.
Yes.
You include one of her poems in your sources.
Right.
And it's just so evocative.
Yeah, Baranda's poem really takes a sensory approach to describing red.
Yeah.
Instead of analyzing it intellectually. You know, he invites us to experience the color through taste, touch, even smell.
Yeah.
For example, she compares red to a margarita flower
Okay.
instead of the more traditional rose, which immediately shifts our perception.
Right, right. It's like she's painting with words.
Yes.
Creating this multi-sensory experience of red. And that leads us to another question. What's it like to not just use or describe red, but to be red?
To be red.
We have two personal accounts that offer unique perspectives on this.
Yeah, Liliana Bloom's essay on being a redhead
Right.
is so insightful.
Yeah.
She speaks candidly about the myths and stereotypes associated with red hair, the bullying she experienced,
Wow.
and even physical differences, like redheads needing more anesthesia.
It's amazing how a simple physical trait like hair color can become so loaded with cultural baggage.
Absolutely. It can shape your whole experience.
Right.
And then we have Julieta Fierro's anecdote from the astronomy interview, which offers a completely different take on being red.
Right. Fierro explains that red light is actually used by astronomers to see farther into space.
Exactly.
It can penetrate gas clouds that would block other wavelengths,
Yes.
allowing us to observe distant objects that would otherwise be hidden.
It's like red light gives astronomers a superpower,
Yeah.
allowing them to see the universe in a whole new way.
So we've gone from this very personal experience being a redhead to the cosmic scale of seeing the universe through red light.
Yes.
It makes you think about how one single color can hold so much meaning and have such a profound impact on our understanding of the world.
And that brings us to a question for you, our listener.
Yes.
How does a simple physical trait, like hair color,
Right.
or even the color of light, shape our experience of the world? It's something to ponder as we move into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll tie everything together and leave you with some final thoughts to consider.
We've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of red, from the heart of dying stars to the very personal experiences of being a redhead.
Yeah, it really is amazing how much one color can touch on so many aspects of our world.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, what are some of the key insights that stand out to you?
Well, I think, we started off with this fascinating paradox. Red is both the lowest energy visible light and the color we most associate with power and passion and intensity. And that duality seems to kind of resonate throughout history across cultures.
Yeah, we saw how red can represent both the end of a star's life and the most abundant type of star in the universe.
Exactly.
And how it was readily available in the form of ochre for those early artists, but then became a symbol of wealth and status through these expensive dyes.
Exactly. And even in its symbolic years, red holds these contradictory meanings.
Yeah.
It's the color of revolution, but also the color of royalty.
Right.
It's associated with both danger and passion.
Yeah.
Transgression and tradition.
It's almost like red itself is a spectrum encompassing like a whole range of human emotions and experiences.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And as I was looking back through the sources you provided, I noticed another interesting thread.
Oh, I love these unexpected connections.
Yeah, this one's really cool.
Okay, what is it?
Well, it seems that many of the sources, whether it's the cave paintings, the literature, or even those personal accounts,
Hmm.
and they mention red in the context of storytelling.
Oh, you know what? Now that you mention it,
Yeah,
the ochre pigments used to tell stories on cave walls.
right.
Pamuk using color to explore narrative in his novel.
Yeah,
Even Blum's essay about being a redhead is a kind of personal story woven around the color red.
right. It's like red is this invisible thread
Yes,
connecting all these different forms of expression.
that's a great way to put it.
And that brings us to a final open-ended question that we didn't directly address in our deep dive.
Okay.
Could red itself be a kind of narrative thread that
Oh,
runs through human history?
that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's like red is this universal language
Hmm.
that helps us make sense of the world, connect to our past, express our deepest
Maybe
emotions.
that's why it has such a powerful hold on us even after all this time.
I think so.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complexities of a color that I thought I knew.
Me too.
Well, thank you for taking us on this incredible journey.
My pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world around you because you never know what hidden wonders you might uncover.